Hey, good evening, Trader Kings and the few queens that follow me. We're going to try a little bit of a new format here, just doing a market review and maybe some setups that I find interesting, maybe after each day or every other day. But what you'll want to do is follow and hit the alerts because it could come up at any time, and you definitely don't want to miss this. So let's kind of jump right into it. First start off. I'm just going to first start off with the S&P 500 and see how that action played out today. We'll see how options played out. We'll see how the futures played out, and what my thinking around certain trades during the day was. All right. So let's go ahead and get started, and let's kind of pull this back here. All right. So if you look on the left side here, you can see the gamma exposure bot, probably around 10 o'clock a.m. Gamma exposure on the positive side was around 54.80. The low side was 54.40. And what we do is just kind of plot those on our on the top here. And this would be, this would be the SPX. If you see this little 10-minute chart here. We also have it on the ES, basically the equivalent of what it would translate over from the SPX to the S&P 500. And if it looks a little messy, it's because what I look at is multi-dimensional volume, if that kind of makes sense, right? So what you're looking at here is the bottom. You can see the volume here, very typical. But we also have a dynamic volume profile on the right-hand side. So I can change the kind of the length here, and you can see where the volume is taking place. And then overlaid, we have previous period volume boxes here that are going to tell us where the most volume is happening. So this is important because market makers want to do business there, and institutions also want to make trades there. So I'm going to say that a lot. If you already follow my channel, then that's pretty typical. The other thing is, you see on the other top right here, we've got financial juice. You can see what's happening during the day. You can see the red headlines. You can see context behind the headlines and the price action behind it. Pretty cool. So today we only had a couple things happening. We had new home sales and a bunch of really non-factor items. We had a Fed bank stress test. And the results, of course, they came out just fine, I'm sure. But tomorrow we've got GDP, which is, and the jobless claims, which are high impact items. So my thinking coming into today is, one, let's plot these gamma exposure lines, kind of give us a nice idea of where they might want to take this. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing we're looking at here is, look at all the volume that's happened around the 5,465 area. This thing has chopped sideways for a couple weeks, and it's really proved out not only in the previous periods, but also you see this giant volume bar, and it's like just keeps getting attracted to it, right? Price just keeps heading there, and it's a little bit like a wood chipper. Really sideways action. This, if you're a trend trader, this is really what can kind of destroy the account. So being mindful that this is there, which it was, we saw this early on, kind of had an idea this was going to be more mean reverting to the high volume node throughout the week until the major release, which is GDP, right? So we're going to kind of wait on that, see how it plays out. The other big factor too is next week is 4th of July here. So, you might have a lot of people trying to get positioned, start to go on vacation. And then the final thing is we've got the end of the quarter, right? It's almost the end of June here. And they're probably getting positioned and waiting for tomorrow, hopefully for a biggish type of move. But we've got a lot of things going on. That's why I decided to do this video for tonight, is because we had we had price in and out of this weekly volume node up here on the top, and just no way of knowing where it's going to go really. But we can start to build a bias when it does enter, and that's if we look at still the top chart here, we've got really our opening was below the weekly and the daily. So what you want to see is some material close above there to trigger what's called the 80% rule. It's a really old rule for volume trading. You might see it in auction market theory, things like that, but it's been around for a while. But it's just a way to, and it's not a hard and fast rule. It's just basically saying once it opens below a volume area, it comes in, and there's a very high likelihood it can go all the way to the top. But I've back tested this a bit, and I don't know if that's always, it's not 80%, that's for sure. But you can have a lot of factors that can help you get there to the 80% or maybe 70, 75%. And that's why we use the GEX bot or the GEX bot or the gamma exposure bot here, which we can plot here and say, hey, that's pretty close. That's near some volume nodes. Probably very likely if we can get some really heavy action in here that it will get up there. So let's just kind of walk you through. So we did see those major positive and negative points early on, have them plotted. Okay, we're ready to go. Now we're just kind of waiting after 9 o'clock, after the or 9 o'clock Central, after the new U.S. Home sales. And then we want to just kind of see where it's going to take us, because at this point, there is no real indication. It's just chopping back and forth. The only real indication was around 10, which is 10 Central versus 10 o'clock New York on this side. So sorry, that's a little confusing. They don't have you, you can't adjust the time here to your own time zone. I'm in Central time. Okay. So once we get over those, once we get past the data release, we get back into the zone, not only on the daily, but now we're back into the weekly. And the way I'm looking at it is, okay, we've got VWAP right here. Its price is looking like it wants to stick around on top of that. So we're trying to find entries that will get us there. And I typically don't trade during the lunchtime. So I'm going to wait towards the end of the day. And as time has gone by, you see gamma exposure really start to move, especially towards the end of the day. Last hour, we're already like pretty high up here. Let me just move it back. Yeah, we're already at 87, which is not bad for 234. I mean, you'd like to see a little bit higher. But as it got closer to the close, you could tell that they were really trying to pump this thing to the 5480 up here. And yeah, see right before the close, came right back to where they originally started. If you look on the gamma exposure bot there. So what I'm trying to do is find a very logical point of entry. And what you want to do is definitely see that you're above this giant volume node here, or volume shelf, or whatever the heck you want to call it. But yeah, once we start closing there, that's good. And you're not seeing a whole lot of big action until towards the end, right? So a really great place would have been around here, right at the bottom of the volume intraday profile and above VWAP right here. So your entry is as close as you can be to this, volume shelf. So if you were right here, where would you put your stop? Right back down here, right? So 63, looking at about 6 points. That's pretty small. And we do have some tighter entry criteria if you look at our website, but just as a general entry point that would make sense to anyone just kind of trading this as a discretionary trader, yeah, you can put it down here, and if it comes back down, well, you're out of luck. But in this case, because we had so much confluence on our side, we had all the flows going that way. This was very early on. That was a point of interest. Obviously, this one could have been, but once we stayed in these volume zones here, plus you've got the end of quarter, you've got GDP tomorrow. You got to think that there's a lot of people trying to A, get positioned, and B, potentially take off any short entries from a option standpoint, because the data comes out before market. So hey, look, you get a nice little pop there at the end. That would make sense to me. So maybe an entry in this area here, which would give you about 15 points. Awesome. Now, we have to make sure that we have a good reward to risk ratio, and in that case, it would have been, and it made all the sense in the world. And since you wouldn't have been using options and maybe just futures, you could have done that. If you look at the bottom here, let me just expand that out. You'll see this piece here. Replay. Boom. There. Okay. So this is just translated over from SPX to ES. So you see these white lines, those are the gamma lines. Yeah, a huge mess here. And that's going to happen when you have just sideways action for a very long time. It's going to look like that. Sorry. But can't have a super clean chart when this is happening. And if you only trade futures or S&P futures, sometimes it just looks like this. Anyways, so it's kind of the same deal. You could have just come here at the volume node and could have put your stop down here. Good 28, 6 or 7 points. And let's see, 28, 44. Yeah, it's good 1-to-1, maybe a little more. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do to make money. But that was the way I was looking at it. I had a lot of confidence going into that direction. Obviously, you're seeing a huge volatility compression here. You've got the VIX in the top left-hand corner getting crushed, but we know that price action is really just waiting for news, and we will see that tomorrow. You also see a lot of cumulative put calls. I mean, people are just absolutely in calls right now. I guess there's just not a whole lot of fear, but who knows? We've got a lot of stuff to be a little bit fearful of, and that's probably why I'm not going to hold overnight or anything for it. So if we kind of zoom out a bit, let's see here. Just look at my swing chart. After hours, we're dipping right back below the week, and we look at our volume from the previous period, and there's a lot of room here. Is GDP going to be so good that it's through the roof? I don't know. Probably not. Who knows? But that's why I'm not really trading it. I'm going to wait till the smoke clears after they announce. There's a lot of room here to get in on, and plus it's the end of the quarter. Maybe we got a really nice run up. Look at that. Beautiful run up. Maybe we take some profits. Maybe it comes down. I don't know, but we'll see what the action brings. And that's why we day trade that kind of stuff on the indexes. All right. Now, moving towards, something that's I don't really talk about too much, but I do like to do long-term stuff, and long-term is where a lot of the money is going to be made. In fact, day trading is pretty good income. You can make a living at it, but a lot of times for most folks, it's great for side income. But if you really want to make really good money, we look for long-term stuff. We hold it and get some serious gains out of it. So, let's look at maybe a couple ideas that might be pretty good. We're going to start with Tesla. We've got a couple of dogs out there, and one of them is Tesla for this year, right? I think everybody follows Tesla. It's seriously one of the most highly followed stocks in the world. But a lot of times people don't understand when is Tesla a good deal? And right now, we're looking at a incredible move today. It went from 185. Let's see, opened at 180. Let's see, what did we open? 186.54, and we closed at towards the top of the range at 196. So a good 10 points, and we're also at the top of the range for the year. Now, it might be the top of the range for the year for this year, but when we look at last year, that's the bottom of the range. And we're starting to see some real signs of this thing could motor back up and through the range, because what we have here is a very typical inverted head and shoulders, right? And we're starting to see volume profile and the volume nodes start to support price. And now we're starting to get into this volume zone where, if you really think about it, it's like, hey, do I know if I'm getting a good deal? Well, are you getting it cheaper than most people did last year? Yeah, especially down here. But now that we've come through here, we're triggering what? The 80% rule. And when you have that with some supporting volume, the very long 6 months of volume that's right under it, this could be a turning point. And what we have as a catalyst is earnings coming up on the 17th of July. And we have a risk to reward here that's, 7-8 points. I mean, you could put your stop down here and still make it work. But the way we're looking at this is, not only do we have earnings coming up where, because Tesla has so many eyes on it, we would hope that market makers will start pumping those option premiums and really pushing this up before earnings. And what better way to do it than, looking at what's happening here is it's coming through last year's volume profile, and it's somewhat cheap. You've got a lot of probably fund managers thinking they may need to rotate into something else after everything else has already kind of hit their highs. And Tesla's got a lot of things going for it, right? It's got the robots, it's got Elon, it's got a lot of fanatics behind it. He can do whatever he wants and pump this thing to the moon. In whatever wave he can pump this thing to the moon, with whatever new thing he's got up his sleeve, right? I'm not here to critique Elon. The guy is like a genius marketer, very smart engineer. He really can do a lot, and he's got a lot of things going on, not only at Tesla, but a lot of different companies, and really use that to his advantage. And he's just got a lot of optionality in how he can move his stock. So my point is, I'm just rambling here, is that you've got a lot of, we can move this over here. You've got a lot of accumulation here for the year. All right. And yes, it is hitting the top of the range for this year. But what this also means too is, if anybody was short, especially from last year, now we're getting into 70% of this volume here. And if it starts ripping through with these gaps very thin and a lot of imbalances here, you could see this rip up really quickly, and that catalyst could be earnings. With earnings, it really is like, hey, is it marginally good? Great right now. And obviously, with the volume, with the support, with the time factors, earnings, you've got maybe some rotation into a growth at a reasonable price. It could be a million different things. They've got the AI story, they've got the cars, they've got electric, they've got everything, right? So they got batteries, they got grid stuff, energy. These are good. This is a good sign. So for me, what I think is a pretty good deal is that we're at the bottom of this range. We've got some room to look at this. Is the reward to risk is really attractive here. what we'd like to see is maybe a little bit of a test, then go. But with Tesla, it can just go. You just don't know. And especially you see it happening like, what was it, last year? Broke through, stayed through, and it didn't look back. But we'd like to see something similar here because of all the accumulation. Maybe they get some really really nice marketing from Wall Street. Who knows? We will see. But you don't have to risk much to make a whole lot here. And anyways, I just wanted to point that one out. We've got another dog here. Let me just mention that. Yeah, the idea with the 80% rule is it goes through the whole thing, and that's 274, 195, right? So that's quite a bit. You want to use long dated options. Great. You can put out you can lay out your risk up front, and you don't really have to worry about it. And you can control a lot of shares if things get moving. And the way I would probably do it is do something somewhere in this area, 220-ish, maybe even down here, maybe 210. And that thing rips, especially after earnings, or let me back up a little bit. If it rips towards earnings as it gets to earnings and then after, I mean, yeah, I think between today, tomorrow, maybe the end of the week, you might have a chance. If it gets below here, hey, no sweat. I mean, it's not that much, and if you get a few of these options, I mean, you're looking at just a few $100, not a big deal. So, yeah, that's a nice long dated play here. Let's go this other dog, Roku. And it's got a little bit of the same thing going on here, except we're not seeing a whole lot of support yet, but it did dip below, and now it's coming back through. Okay. You've got your volume weighted VWAP here, or anchored VWAP. And hey, another chance here. I would say this one is a little bit, definitely less probability, but it's still there. Roku, it's one of these beasts of a stock that can just jump out at you. You can see the 57 to 108. It can double up on you within less than a month. So, yeah, I would say this is a pretty good, pretty interesting setup. I wouldn't say it's like, hey, go for broke on this, but hey, it is in a good spot. You've got the high of the year for the current year right here from last year up here. Could it go through? I like the risk to reward to it. So I would put a little bit of money on it just to see if it works, but I'm not highly convinced on the business model. At best, I think it's something that could get bought out just from their advertising targeting, and all the TVs and stuff that they're on could be compelling for somebody. So got to keep that in your mind. That's pretty much it. These are a little bit longer term. I'll do some other intermediate swing type of trades in the future as well, but I just wanted to put these out there. All right. Well, if you have some time, go check out my website. I've got a new trading system framework that you can use just like this to figure out whether things are cheap or a little overpriced, and keep you from not only losing money, but as a trader, know your risk, know your reward, have a path to success, really. So check us out. And again, I'm going to be putting this stuff out hopefully daily, if not maybe every other day. Anyways, thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe and set your alerts. Have a great night, and I'll see you in the next video.